Alright, in a little bit of a rush today, but it looks like the weather's going to hold up for the week. It's like I prepared a little bit for tomorrow's adventure too, to hopefully get to fly the drone and all. I don't think the hike should be as difficult, but hopefully the scenery will be as good as well. Most of the interesting news I read today wasn't actually in Canada, but even for things like related to the drones, they were actually in like the US, so I'll talk about that a bit later. But you guys gave me some interesting stuff to talk about later. I just don't know how to organize everything yet, but I'm still trying to do it, rest assured. And I was trying to read your guys' comments too, just about testing stuff, like buy a $20 drone? What would I test exactly? What would the science be? It's kind of interesting you guys mentioned that, like you're talking about things like, for example, there's no way like a small drone would even survive in front of a helicopter, for example, because the wind would be too strong. I mean, I would assume for the most part, like from an average individual, for the people who are afraid of drones right now, I mean, who do you think they would trust? Like the voice, the quote professional helicopter pilot that's commercial and all that, or the regular person doing it for fun? If you kind of like saying, yeah, would you trust a doctor or just a regular person talking about stuff like that? So yeah, like again, if I had the means and resources, I would do tests like that. I mean, if there's anyone out there that does have the ability to do it, I'd love to see stuff like that too. Videos on a little tiny drone going up to the helicopter like in that high, let's see if that thing can survive or not. Again, not to say that those things can't cause damage in any way. I mean, that's not the point. It's like in a realistic scenario, in a practical situation, what are the odds of that happening to justify these really dumb laws? So one piece of news that caught my attention, because with all this talk about drones again, like I think you should make laws that are fair, because there are crazy people out there that could like take advantage of the laws in many ways. So this news was kind of interesting. It was, and I believe it was in the US. It's not related to drones, but apparently there's someone suing their date, basically for texting too much while going to the movies. It says here the guy's asking for $17.31 for the price of the movie tickets, and apparently, like to my understanding, the guy actually did like take it to court. Like apparently, like it says here, the petition or the guy's like formal complaint, it says the defendant's behavior is quote a threat to civilized society. Like I guess like he found that his day texting in a movie theater was that crazy enough to do that. Like, oh my goodness. And apparently the CEO of the place where they showed the movie, I suppose, like just offered the guy a $17.31 gift certificate just to like, okay, just put it behind you. And I thought being afraid of drones was crazy. I mean, people are even that afraid of people being afraid of others texting. Like it might be stupid, I suppose, but a threat to civilized society? What's this world coming to? So that led me to the main thing I read today about drones, because many of us, like here in Canada, we obviously say things like, well, in the US it makes way more sense, so we should follow their way. Even for like US viewers, like here, like you guys basically gave me tips even recently showing like how do you guys read the maps? It makes way more sense that way. So this was actually really interesting, because I remember reading this before about somebody in the US taking the FAA like to court, because he felt that registering their drones, like it's not legal in a sense. I'll post the links in the description below, so for those that are more legal savvy or aviation savvy, you'll probably get more out of it. But from what I'm understanding from reading this, is essentially the recreational drone flyer is arguing before, it says back in 2015, Congress decided that the FAA couldn't regulate like model aircrafts. So he believes what they're doing with the forced registration is essentially, I guess, you know, illegal, if that's the right word to say. And I guess the FAA's argument is saying if they can't do that, then it's a threat to safety and security to the national airspace, because they can't regulate these people. And according to these articles, I guess the recreational drone flyer won. The courts agreed with him that the FAA had no rights to impose these kind of regulations. Like, wow, that's really interesting. So it even says here, we should know in the next couple of weeks how the US government plans to implement the court's decision. All right, and someone in the comments said, more ducks, okay. I think there are technically more than just ducks there, so you get a bonus. Makes me really curious on how everyone in the US feels about those changes for the drone flyers. How do you guys feel about that? For me as a Canadian reading that, I guess the positive news to take out of that is since we're going through these really stupid interim drone laws and all that, it gives me hope to say, like, for example, like here, I feel things like that privacy issue with the addresses, they're completely overstepping their boundaries. So can we do the same? To say, hey, this isn't legal, so take that out now. Like, go back to the drawing board and actually think it through. This as well comes down to the balance. Like for this, I would say I'm trying to look at it from the other end too. If the thing is just completely unregulated, like there probably are like people that would just fly crazy like right into the airports and all that. So where's the balance? Like I know for myself, like I still stand by my personal opinion on if I'm somewhere like here right now, what danger is there for me to fly the drone just as a regular recreational hobbyist? Like for me, before these ridiculous laws came out, I used to bring the drone everywhere because like I said, it was a lifestyle camera. I mean, I remember one day it was raining, but I even told people in the vlog, I still carry it anyways because you just never know. And that's how I got these like awesome sun shots, for example. Now I can't do that just because, you know, the laws are so ridiculous. So in that sense, I'm happy to hear stuff like that, to know that like change is possible in that way. At the same time, like registration or a license process, like I don't really see an issue with that. Like it could be beneficial if done right. The only problem is like in my opinion anyways, I just think a lot of this stuff that's brought out, like here in Canada anyways, I don't think it has to do necessarily with safety, as I mentioned before. It just feels there's too much commercial and money being played into the factor of making up those laws, and in my opinion that's wrong. Like if it's truly about safety, you should put that money stuff like on the side. That should not be a factor. Like fundamentally speaking, I know everyone flies for a different reason. Like some people fly it just for flying, for the adrenaline rush. For me, I purchased a drone as a camera essentially to help me get those views and perspectives that I can't get like with a regular camera. So in that sense, the laws don't make sense to me. Like for example, a real estate agent, if he takes a picture with a drone, for some reason you need an extreme, tedious license process to do that. Yet you could theoretically climb up a ladder and then take a photo of your camera and that's okay. Like that doesn't make sense. So again, to me, it's not always about safety, because even in that sense, don't you think it's safer to fly the drone, for example, to take the picture than climbing up the ladder? Like even if it's doing something like a roof inspection, like shouldn't it be the other way around where you need a license to do the more dangerous stuff? I always think the drone is safer in that case. I know some of you mentioned this too, but maybe there just needs to be more common sense laws integrated into it, such as, for example, the closer you are to those airports or helipads, then the lower you can fly, as an example. Because again, it makes no sense in many ways for a person like me in fields like this, like to not be able to fly at all. Or at the same time, maybe the whole issue, there's not enough focus on trying to clearly define the classes of the vehicles or drones or whatever you want to call it, because a lot of people always compare this to say it should be like cars on the road. I mean, just like the road in general, I would imagine. I mean, depending on what's going on the road, that kind of factors of what you need like a license for, as an example. Like to me anyways, flying a place like here, a 250 gram drone is a huge difference in flying something really big. I mean, just just to use the comparison, this is Transport Canada and we're thinking of things like roads and licensing. I mean, does someone need a license when it comes to riding the skateboard or a bicycle here? I mean, I could argue in those cases they go just as fast in some ways. That makes it really dangerous, but how do you define what is dangerous where you need like a license to do it and registration? Again, I'm interested in hearing everyone's opinions because it's a really interesting piece of news, I find anyways, for drone enthusiasts and all that. Man, the things that can happen in just one day, huh? How's that for more ducks? Alright, see you guys later.